And hey everyone, we're gonna go ahead and get started here right now. Um, for everyone that's in the Zoom room, in the recording room, I apologize if I sent you guys the wrong passcode because I think I did. So I'm glad that you've made it. Um, we'll just get started on the workshop instead of doing introductions, since we have people in both the Zoom room and in real life. The discussion or the workshop will probably end for anyone that's in the Zoom room around like 1:45-ish, 1:50, somewhere around there, unless I talk too long. And then everyone that's here in person will kind of get to try out whatever types of tips and canes that they want. And then if anyone has questions in the Zoom room or in person, you can just interrupt me and shout them out. Okay. You don't have to worry about like hand raising or anything like that, since there's not that many people here. And yeah, and I am Mandy, by the way, for anyone here whom I do not know. I am the orientation mobility specialist here at Second Sense. I've been here just a little over 2 years now. Um, so as all of you guys know, there's a lot of different types of canes and tips out there, um, that you can kind of customize to yourself, your environment, what you use them for, how much you use them, so on and so forth. But the first thing that I wanted to touch base on was how to measure your cane. So for anyone that's thinking about getting a cane for the first time or getting a replacement cane or whatever it may be, there is a certain way to measure your cane. Um, and the way that I like to describe it is you take a cane, and you're standing up at this point, and your cane should be able to fit under your armpit. So you put your cane under your armpit, and you should be able to hang your arm pretty comfortably over it. That is the like standard way to measure a cane. You can also measure it to your sternum, but I find that the underarm method is usually a little bit easier for people to do. Now, I like to say that that is how I measure the cane, and then I like to add a couple inches to it. So I'm typically measuring at your armpit and then giving you a cane that's at least one length longer than that. Sometimes more than one length longer. Canes come in increments of 2 inches. So typically I will give someone a cane that's at least 2 inches longer than like the typical recommended. And that's just because it is offering you more reaction time to things, right? Um, so if you come across a stair and your cane falls off the edge of that stair, it's giving you 2 to 4 or however many more inches to react to that drop off than a typical cane length would. And cane length varies for people who walk faster. Um, the faster you walk, the more time you need to react to things. So I typically give people who like to walk faster longer canes. Now, going into, so if you guys are ever in a situation where you need to purchase a cane from somewhere, or someone is wanting to give you a cane from an agency or an organization, that's kind of how you can measure that. You can also use a tape measure to measure that too if you guys don't have a cane to actually measure it with. So moving on to the different types of canes. So the first type of cane and the most common type of cane that is typically issued as a folding cane. Um, these canes come in 4 or 5 sections. Usually those are the most common, depending on the length. 4 sections is typically the length for canes that are 48 to 54 inches tall. So people that are normally like 5 foot to like 5'6". And then 5 section canes are more common for canes that are 56 to 60 inches long. So anyone that's taller than like 5'6". There are 6 section canes too for any canes that are exceeding 60 inches. Most canes are sold from the typical standard sizes are 48 to 60. However, you can special order canes for shorter or longer. You can also cut canes too, not folding canes, but rigid canes. You can also get them cut. So that's typically how, or back in the day, that was how kid canes were made. The more sections you have, the more compact your cane is going to be. So the shorter it's going to be when you put it in your bag or your holster or whatever you guys have it in. And one of the benefits to having a folding cane is that they're able to be stored away at home, at restaurants, and your backpack when you're walking if you don't need them. And they're very portable. If you don't use your cane all the time, which some people don't, which is okay, they're also more discreet. So you can put them away and no one would know you would have it if that's a concern for you guys. They can be, however, one of the downsides of folding canes is that they can be less sturdy and long-lasting due to the joints becoming compromised. And there are more parts to maintain since there are joints, there's multiple sections. Sometimes your joints can get a little creaky, a little rusty, right? So that's kind of the downside to a folding cane. So one of the oh, we'll move on to rigid and then I'll bring up this point. So does anybody have questions about folding canes before we move on? So the next type of cane that is issued, not as often, is a rigid cane. So rigid canes are available in all the same sizes and lengths as folding canes are. They, however, can be cut to be able to be customized to you or to people who are a little bit shorter as well. They are more durable than folding canes due to the absence of the joints in the cane. They have strong, consistent tactile feedback due to only having the information travel up one section of the cane rather than having the information from the ground travel up 5 sections or 6 sections of a cane. There is no need to assemble, so you won't need to learn how to fold and unfold your cane and keep it together with the bungee or any of that because it's just going to be straight. And the one downside to a rigid cane is that it's harder to store. So you can't just like fold it up and put it in your bag. You're going to have to find a place to put it that it's not going to trip people. So putting it on the floor can sometimes be an issue. Maybe putting it in the corner of your, a restaurant, your house, whatever it may be. I also wrote down that there are a lot of options for people with rigid canes to store the cane. So like cane mounts or hooks that you can put on the cane. And so Chris, who is one of my current clients here, I just wanted to kind of bring this up. He has a rigid cane because he travels on sidewalkless roads a lot. And they tend to be more rough than typical city sidewalks. So he was finding that the joints of his cane were sort of bending and becoming compromised and actually snapping out of place quite often when he was walking. And he has a cane mount that he uses to like store his cane up against tables or walls or benches or whatever he might need to do that with. Any questions about rigid canes? I know a lot of people are against rigid canes because they can't be folded up, but I personally think that they are a great option for many people. So the next type of cane, which Robert here has, is an ID cane. So the ID cane's primary function is to signal that a person is visually impaired or blind. Not necessarily to have on the ground all the time. So they are useful in public settings such as stores, airports, places where you might be looking to like get a ride share or something like that, getting onto public transportation, if anyone has that in their travel. They are smaller and skinnier and more compact than typical standard canes. And they're very lightweight, typically issued at the same length as a regular cane. So generally up to the user's chest. And they are ideal for low vision users or those who are accompanied by a sighted guide. And good in low risk areas. Would not recommend using an ID cane for someone who is completely or totally blind outdoors. Skinny? Was it foldable or no? Yeah, I'm going to talk about that one next. So that's a different cane. So an ID cane, sometimes they fold, sometimes they don't. They typically come with one tip. It's like a very sort of pointy pencil type tip. Yeah, it's like a little white tip that it comes with. So the next type of cane, which Jose was just mentioning, is called a slimline cane. And a slimline cane is very, very, very similar to an ID cane. It's lightweight, aesthetic, compact, but it's still able to serve as a full-length cane to provide tactile feedback when you need it to. It's thinner and sleeker in design than a standard cane, but so you can't use it as a standard cane. So if you have it all the time on the ground outside, it's the joints are going to give out really fast. So it's kind of like you pick and choose when you use it. But these canes are they have tips. So like a standard cane that has tips that you can choose from and switch out, you can also choose tips for this cane. It doesn't just come with one tip. So you can actually put like a ceramic tip, which we'll talk about later, or a marshmallow tip on these canes so that they can be used more like standard canes, but not to the same like intensity and duration as normal canes, if that makes sense, since they are skinnier. So in essence, they're more functional than an ID cane, but still high risk for joint breakdown and snapping if used too often on rough terrain or on longer trips. So sometimes I like to describe these types of canes, like the slimline canes and the ID canes, as like, if you're not a low vision user, as business casual canes. So like if you'd put your, your high heels on or your suit on to go somewhere, you could use this type of cane, right? Because you're not going to be walking. Well, some people may walk a lot in their high heels, but I certainly am not. So, but that's kind of what I describe it as. All right. Yes, Robert has a question. Yeah, so it's aluminum. Yeah, so the ID canes are typically aluminum, which we're going to talk about all of that as well pretty soon. I think that the slim lines may come in a carbon fiber or graphite, whatever people want to call that as well. So, any other questions about ID or slimline canes? Sometimes people have both slimline or ID and normal canes in their repertoire as well, and just sort of pick and choose when they're going to take the other one out, right? Yes, Wayne. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. Any like sort of low risk area indoors is a good example of that, would be a good place for slimline or ID canes. Yes, Chris. So I actually brought one of these things. I'm not sure. Oh, we're gonna talk about that too. Yeah, we're gonna get there. Yeah. Hopefully I've covered everything, but Yeah, Chris was just holding up an NFB cane. Yes, yes, we are going to go over all of that. Yeah, no, it's okay. Just going out of order. So the next type of cane that I am going to mention is a telescoping cane, which a lot of people do not have or have not ever sort of messed around with a telescoping cane. So telescoping canes are where the sections collapse inside of each other rather than folding up. With this type of cane, it's easier to adjust for like a very customized height rather than like with your sections, they're all a certain length. To unfold it, it's always going to be the same length. With a telescoping cane, you can kind of customize it to be the length that you choose for whatever occasion you may want to use it for. So, like for example, you can adjust a telescoping cane. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with like congested area technique, where you're using your cane differently in a very crowded area. But typically, if you're using a rigid or a folding cane, you kind of hold it, you kind of choke up on the cane and you hold it closer to your body so that you're not taking up too much space. With a telescoping cane, you can just adjust it to be a shorter height if you would like instead. They're easy to adjust with click locking systems or twist locks to secure the cane length. So they're not going to just collapse into each other with these locking systems. The adjustment process, some people find that it's faster and easier than folding and unfolding your cane. Telescoping canes are slightly bulkier than folding canes when they're folded up or when they're telescoped, so to speak. There can be easier to store, however, because you don't have the bungee that has to hold all of the sections together. Everything's just kind of in one spot. However, the downside to telescoping canes is that they're more expensive than folding canes typically, and they don't have as many tip options either. So that's like your sort of trade-off. The tip options for telescoping canes are not great. And some of them are made out of aluminum, some are made out of titanium. Um, the next cane that we'll talk about is a smart cane. Has anybody here used a smart cane? No. Okay. So the one smart cane, I only put one example in here. I think there's like a couple different smart canes out there. But the one example that I have, which I have only used it once, and we do not have one here at Second Sense, is called the We Walk smart cane. It is $499. So big downside, right? It's expensive. And it also has an app associated with it. The app is free, but apparently, which this is very vague, but it does have some advanced features that require a cost, an associated cost. I did not go into the app to figure out what those were because I don't have the cane, but in general, the app does most things for free. So the WeWalk cane integrates sensor technology, GPS, and voice feedback. It has ultrasonic obstacle detection, so it can detect obstacles and objects within a range of 3 to 10 feet and alert the user with vibrations or audible cues when those obstacles are coming. I believe in the app you can set the distance. So if you want it to alert you at 3 feet, you can set it to that. If you want more of an alert, you can set it to 10 or 7 feet, 10 feet, whatever you'd like. It also has the other thing I wanted to add about this ultrasonic obstacle detection, in case anyone's considering ever buying a smart cane, I find that it's a lot of feedback, sometimes overload of feedback, right? Because canes are designed to find obstacles, right? You can imagine that it's always going to be vibrating at some point when you're holding it. So I just find, again, if any of you have had like a mini guide or something like that, I find that it just provides way too much tactile feedback. So that can be a negative. Um, it has built-in GPS. So can connect to a smartphone and provide turn-by-turn navigation instructions via voice guidance from, I would assume you'd have to have some sort of like Bluetooth earbuds or bone conduction headphones, which would be my preference. There is a voice assistant, so the cane can connect with Google Assistant or Siri, depending on what type of phone you have. And then, as I mentioned, it does have an app associated with it where you can personalize your settings as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're just a little bit expensive, and as with all technology, it can malfunction, right? So I don't know a lot about the battery life or anything like that of this cane, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, this they might have had multiple versions. I'm not sure like what version they're on of this cane. But yeah, I only used it once when I was in grad school, so I can't speak to much of how it works. But the next cane is if any of you are familiar with a werewolf, which is a cane distribution company. I think Wayne, you and I might have talked about this. Yeah. So they have a couple of canes. They're very specialized canes. One of them is called an Urban Explorer cane. And it's made of durable aerospace grade aluminum, which means that supposedly this aluminum is lighter or feels lighter than the typical aluminum that like your Amputech canes are made out of. They have strong metal joint sleeves and a compact folding mechanism. I believe they fold into 6 sections. And then they have what they call a dome tip, which is a new type of tip. It's basically a combination of a rolling marshmallow and a rolling ball. I find that when I've used it, it functions more as like a rolling marshmallow tip, but the edges are just more rounded on it than a marshmallow. It's lightweight and able to withstand high mileage, but only in urban environments. So, Chris, for example, if you're using it in your sidewalkless neighborhood, probably. But yeah, if you're using this cane though, it's probably not going to be super durable in an area where you're not like on city sidewalks and stuff like that. Okay. The next type of cane that a werewolf makes is the all-terrain cane. Um, this cane is designed to be used on a wide variety of terrains, including like hiking terrains, snow, fields, sand, you name it. The handle is designed to be used as like a typical walking cane or as like a hiking pole. So it has like a longer handle than a typical cane does. The cane only folds into 3 sections. So it's not going to be compact when you fold it up. You're probably going to have like a separate bag for it or something like that. Because I believe it folds up to maybe like 2.5 feet, which isn't very small. I know it's kind of a pain. It does have a telescoping feature in order to adjust for different heights because these canes only come in like, I think 3 different sizes. So the telescoping feature allows you to adjust that. This cane has a roller ball tip. So it is designed to glide over any surface and is also considered a high mileage tip. It is made of a very strong and durable material. And there is a cabling, like a metal cabling inside of this instead of a typical bungee for durability and has stainless steel joints. Anyone have questions about the types of canes? Yes, Wayne. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sadly, I filled out the form, did everything, never got any communication back. So that was a couple of alarms for this expensive cane, and I expect to be able to communicate the questions, and I got no feedback. So just, I'm too well with kind of icy surface.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to know.
Oh yes, I don't know what they're that I don't know the specific name either. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, so maybe not the best customer service. A Werewolf is a very small, new-ish company. So yeah, maybe not the best customer service, or maybe not a lot of people working there. The other thing that Wayne did mention as well is that these canes are definitely more expensive than a typical Ambutech cane. I believe I don't know which one. One of them is around 70 and the other is around 120. Mm-hmm. I believe the Urban Explorer is 70 and the all-terrain is 120. And then there's like, I looked on their website and there's a bundle, and I think the bundle is a little bit cheaper if you wanted both of them. Right? Anyone else have questions about types of canes? Chris, I'm gonna get to the NFB cane when I talk about material. Alrighty? Okay, so we're gonna talk about materials next. So there's a lot of different materials that canes can come in. The first and my personal favorite type of material is aluminum. So aluminum tends to be the most durable and affordable material out of all the materials. It can withstand high mileage and rough terrain better than the other materials can. Some users, however, one of the downsides is that it can be a little bit heavier than graphite. The other thing that I found with aluminum is sometimes the joints are a little stickier over time. They get a little bit like harder to pull apart if you have a folding cane. Okay. The next material is graphite. So graphite tends to be one of more, I feel like more popular of the more popular material that's issued. It's lightweight, slightly more expensive than aluminum. I wouldn't say too much more expensive, just slightly. It can also withstand high mileage, but on more average terrain, um, not without a lot of bumps on it. So if you're off-roading a lot, so to speak, with your cane, may not be the best material for you. And it does not provide as much tactile or auditory feedback as aluminum canes do either. That's like a little something a lot of people I feel like don't consider with that. And then the last type of cane is a fiberglass cane. Um, the fiberglass canes are the most lightweight of all materials, but can snap very, very, very easily. I don't know if anyone here has ever had a fiberglass cane snap on them. I've definitely had people report it. So fiberglass canes are, however, very, very, very light. They're best for indoor use or very smooth urban environments. Nothing like off-roading, no gravel roads or roads in general, really, for these. And their average price to go along with that. So fiberglass is typically, you'll find fiberglass canes typically issued by the National Federation for the Blind, or NFB, as some of you may call it. The NFB has a free white cane program where I believe, is it every 6 months, Chris? I believe it's every 6 months you can request a new white cane. At least during the pandemic, that's what it was. So they will actually send you a white cane. Their white canes are a little bit different in terms of sizing. So Ambutech and Revolution canes come in like 52, 54. The NFB canes come in odd numbers. So it would be like 51, 53, 55. If you guys are looking to get an NFB cane, get it in the inch taller than your Ambutech cane or your Revolution cane that you already have. Always go taller. Do you have anyone have anything to add about the NFB canes? Yes, Wayne?
Um, um, just straight walking. The one thing I always have a problem with
Mm-hmm.
With horses, but a couple times, I caught that tip,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, it's off.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about those tips too. They come off really easily. I've had clients like duct tape their tip on to that cane. So yeah, the one thing about NFB canes is that yeah, they don't come with a lot of tip options. You can buy replacement tips from NFB. I think they're like 250 or $3 per tip. What'd you say? Yes. So I think you can purchase them from NFB if they come off, which they typically do if you're using them outdoors. Like it is guaranteed at some point that your tip's gonna pop off. So however, for people that don't have another option, right? You can't pay for a cane, you're waiting to get services at an agency, whatever it may be. Yeah, waiting for a guide dog, like all of that is really good. It's a good thing to have in the interim, right? Any questions about that? Any more comments about NFB canes? All good. Um, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is brands. So NFB is not only a brand, a type, and a material of cane. So that's what we started with. Now we're going to talk about Revolution canes. So Revolution, all of their canes are made of graphite. They're known for their graphite canes. Their canes, a lot of clients have reported to me that they feel like their Revolution cane, which we used to issue Revolutions, we do not anymore, but that the Revolution cane was lighter than the Ambutech canes, which may be true because I typically issue aluminum Ambutech canes. So that could be the reason, but they do make the cane lighter. The one downside of Revolution is that they really lack a variety of tips. I think they only have like four different types of tips that you can put on your cane. Um, and all the tips are slip-on tips, which means you put them on, you jam them into the ground to keep them on. And then if you want to take them off, you got to like put them in a door jam and pull down. So it's like a high risk situation to take off your cane tip. Okay. That's a downside, right? The other thing too is sometimes, if you're a high mileage cane user, some people find that those tips come off of their cane too. So, if you're not high mileage, it's typically okay. But I've had a lot of high mileage cane users report that those tips slip off. Um, the Revolution canes come in folding and rigid canes, and their joints are held together by these rubber stoppers, which make the joints less likely to stick together. However, the rubber stoppers typically either snap or they fall off the cane. Yes. So essentially, they're there probably for like 2 months and that's about it, right? But people do find typically that the joints they don't stick as much as Ambutech canes do. Yeah, I called them rubber stoppers. I don't know what the like actual name is. The next brand is Ambutech, which is my personal favorite brand of cane. So these canes come in a larger variety of materials and types. They come in aluminum and graphite, and I believe they also sell a titanium telescoping cane as well.
Yeah.
And then they also sell telescoping canes, slimline canes, and no jab canes. Has anyone heard of a no jab cane? Yeah. So no jab canes are cool canes that have basically a spring in the handle so that when you hit something, if you run into an obstacle or whatever it may be, you're going to have a little bit of extra room before you get really jabbed in the stomach. It's going to make the contact a little bit less intense, right? So Ambutech does sell those. My favorite thing about Ambutech is that they sell more tips. So they sell, I think it's over 10 different types of tips, which I'm going to go over. And they sell tips with different attachment mechanisms. So they sell not only slip-on tips like Revolution, but they sell hook-on tips, which are my favorite types of tips because you can switch them out really, really easily. So if you have one tip that you use for the country and one tip that you use for the city, you just switch it out depending on where you're going. Another cool thing about Ambutech is that they offer repair options for people. So you can actually send your cane in, say you like lose your bungee or something in your cane breaks. You can send it in. They either replace your cane or they fix your cane and send it back to you. They also offer replacement parts. So if you're really like savvy and you can think you can fix up your own cane, which I've had a client do before, they'll send you like your own a new bungee to like record your cane or like anything like that. So I think that's really cool too. And I've never dealt with their customer service, but I've heard their customer service is great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ambutech's the best. So, and then the last company, which we talked about a little bit already, is a Werewolf, which only sells two types of canes, smaller company, and then canes are expensive and very specialized. So, and I do, in my opinion, I do think that Ambutech canes can do almost everything that the a Werewolf, all-terrain, and Urban Explorer canes can do if you're willing to switch the tips out every once in a while. So, right? So that's all the cane stuff. Does anyone have questions about any of the cane stuff? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
One second, John, I'll get right to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. John, go ahead with your question.
Um, are all these canes available through Second Sense?
So, good question. We only sell Ambutech canes here. We are able to special order canes for people if you need us to. Or we can also help you find a link to buy it on your own. We typically get our canes from a company called LS&S. I'm gonna have to look up what that stands for. If you would like me to, because I can't remember unless you can, Jose. I don't remember. So, but we get all of our canes. They sell Ambutech canes at LS&S, so we can special order canes for people, but we typically only carry Ambutech folding canes here, 46 through 60 inches. And then we typically have rollerball tips, rolling marshmallow tips, but I have special ordered tips for clients before too. Does that answer your question?
It does. And I have a comment.
Sure.
I have both types of the werewolf canes,
Mhm.
and I really love them, but I've had some problem with quality control,
Okay.
and they've not been very responsive about giving me an answer whether they're under warranty or not. So I really love the canes, and I actually had an encounter with a car and they ran my cane over with their wheel and it bent it, and I was able to stick into a fence and bend it right back.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and it took a lot of effort, but I was able to do it. And most canes would have just snapped in two. So I was impressed by that, but um, I am having some trouble with quality control and follow up with them.
Good to know. I know you came in late, John, but we had a person here, Wayne, who was in person, who said the same thing about the customer service at a werewolf as well. So you are not alone.
Both my golf tip handles have cracked right at the knuckle where it meets the clamping ring, and
Got
they
it.
both broke in the exact same spot. And so it's got to be a defect in the product.
That is good to know. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Um, Now we're going to move on to tips. We've got quite a few to go through. I want to try to get through them in the next 15 minutes. I think I can. So I'm going to go through each type of tip, what companies offer them, and then what type of cane technique you can use with the tips, as well as special features that they have. Okay. So the first type of tip is a pencil tip. Pencil tips are sold by both Revolution and Ambutech. They are a straight tip with a slightly rounded end made from nylon. And they should only be used with 2-point touch technique. Well, 2-point touch technique with constant contact going up to your street crossings, obviously, but mostly used with 2-point touch technique. They're going to get caught in lots and lots of cracks if you're using constant contact. They are lightweight. That is one good feature of them. But other than that, I don't love them. So yes. The next tip is marshmallow, not rolling marshmallow, just regular marshmallow. These are only sold by Ambutech. They're a cylindrical shaped nylon tip that does not roll. And again, only to be used with 2-point touch. Again, don't love this tip. Gets caught in a lot of surfaces. If you're going to get a marshmallow tip, why not get one that rolls? Right? So the next one is a rolling marshmallow tip. Rolling marshmallow tips are sold by both Revolution and Ambutech. This is the best tip that Revolution sells, by the way, in my opinion. All of the rest of them don't roll or anything. They're just kind of there. Pencil tips, and there's a teardrop tip I didn't even put in here. But marshmallow roller is a cylindrical tip with a built-in protective bearing that rolls from side to side. So as you roll your cane side to side, your tip is going to roll side to side with it rather than just having a bunch of friction on the ground. It's made from I'm going to say this term probably 8 times in this in this presentation. I got it straight from the website. So it's made from an ultra high molecular weight polyethylene that lasts 2 to 3 times longer than a regular tip. So I'm just going to say long lasting tip, high mileage tip, right? So that's what I'm going to use the term high mileage in the future of this presentation because I don't want to say that every single time. I did type it every single time though. So yeah, it lasts a long time. Again, rolling side to side, it's not going to wear down on one side more than another side since it is rolling. This type of cane tip can be used with constant contact technique, which is the sweeping technique, or 2-point touch technique, which is a tapping technique. Any questions so far? Cool. Next, I think all of these might just be Ambutech cane tips. So the next one I'm going to talk about, which is one of my favorite types of cane tips, is the ceramic cane tip. Has anybody here used a ceramic cane tip? I think Wayne has one. Yes, they're one of my favorite types of cane tips. If you're gonna get a pencil tip, don't get a ceramic tip. So ceramic tips are sold by Ambutech. They are a small, very small, half ball shaped tip with the rounded part touching the ground that provides the best audio and tactile transmission of all cane tips. So it's going to provide you, if there is a difference in sound of the surface, you're going from pavement to tactile or to the tactile domes. You're going from, wood to concrete. It's going to give you the best tactile and audio feedback of all the cane tips. It's also a high mileage cane tip. So, can be used with constant contact or 2-point touch technique, either one. So you can switch it. I like that it's really versatile. I love ceramic cane tips. And then my second favorite type of cane tip, which I'm going to talk about next, is the rollerball tip. Yeah, these are my 2 favorites. So rollerball tips, again, only sold by Ambutech. It's a ball. So I say it's in between the size of a golf ball and a tennis ball. And it has a built-in roller shield that rolls side to side as you sweep your cane. It's made from nylon. They make a high mileage rollerball tip as well, which is made from a different material that I can't quite remember what it is. But the downside is if you use 2-point touch technique, you should switch over to constant contact if you're going to use a rollerball. So it should only be used with the sweeping technique. Okay. Again, love the rollerball tip as well. These are probably the two types of cane tips that I issue the most to people. The next type of the next tips that I have are getting into very specialized tips. So has anyone heard of a Pathfinder tip? So Pathfinder tip is it's also sold by Ambutech. It is very similar to a roller ball. It looks like a roller ball, except that it has like a slit in the middle of it. So this slit, it allows the ball to not only roll side to side, but it rolls front and back as well. Yeah, it's pretty unique. I feel like it's an easier thing to like be able to experience than it is to explain, if that makes sense to everybody. Um, Pathfinders are meant for high mileage travel. They're used with constant contact and they can be used on the most variety of terrain. They're also one of the more expensive tips. I believe they're like $30, somewhere in there. So they're one of the more expensive tips. Ceramic tips are also sort of expensive too. The next type of tip is a Dakota disc. Anyone ever use that?
Is that the tip that rolls, I think rolls as well?
Yeah, it's actually like a flat disc shaped tip sold by Ambutech again. It's designed to travel over uneven surfaces. So surfaces like snow, sand, grass, pea gravel, dirt, anything you can think of. It's designed to just kind of glide over those areas. I had a client that I just recently worked with. He does a lot of like hiking and sort of like some like marathon type things, like on trails. And he does a lot of reconnaissance before he goes because he's lost a lot of vision. And he has this Dakota disc to go and do his reconnaissance before he goes onto the trail itself to see if there's any like roots or rocks or anything anywhere on the trail that he should be aware of before he goes. They are made from plastic. It's a durable plastic, but it is plastic. And they are not designed for typical ground. So if you're using it on the asphalt, you're going to ruin it, basically. So the only time it's to be used is on like alternative terrain, so to speak. Okay. The next tip is a wheeling tip, also sold by Ambutech. And it's actually a wheel. It looks like a wheel. I do not have one of these. I just wanted to put it on here because I think they're cool. It's a soft wheel that rolls forward and backward, and it's designed for rough terrain. So it doesn't roll side to side. It's made with rubber, and it's to be used with constant contact. Then we have a jumbo roller tip, which I believe I do have here. Also sold by Ambutech. It's a disc-shaped tip with built-in protected bearing and a rounded outer edge designed to roll side to side. The best way I can describe this is it looks kind of like a mini hockey puck with rounded edges. That's kind of what it looks like. Then there's the flex tip, which I also don't have here, but made by Ambutech as well. The flex tip is a bell-shaped tip with a flexible neck that's designed to bounce over uneven surfaces. Again, it's made to last. It's a high mileage tip, and it's only to be used with 2-point touch because I don't believe it rolls back and forth. Yeah. And then I think this is my last tip. Yeah, last but not least, our favorite metal NFB gliding tip. Okay. So I don't even know if the NFB sells another type of tip. I think that this might be the only one they have. So it's a metal disc with a rounded edge. It glides along the ground, which does provide excellent audio feedback. It's made from stainless steel. However, I made a note. It said it can be used with constant contact online. I would recommend not doing that. I said it can be used with 2-point touch, cane technique, preferably indoors. So, yeah, this is like the ultimate business casual cane. It's lightweight, it's great, it's good if you have no other options, but it's not the most durable cane in the whole world, right? But awesome that it's a free program, in my opinion. So, upsides and downsides, right? Very flexible. Yeah, just don't bend it too far, it could snap. You could probably snap it, Chris. Does anyone have questions about any of the tips we just went over? Using them? Yeah. Yeah. The good thing about Ambutech, which this is a good segue into my next couple of things. The good thing about Ambutech is if you guys feel like you could benefit from 2, 3, 4 tips, you can switch them out really easily. So the last thing I want to talk about before the in-person people get into demoing these is the attachment mechanisms of canes. So there's 3 different attachment mechanisms. The first one is, and my favorite type of attachment mechanism is a hook tip. So hook tips are only available through Ambutech. They're very easy once you learn how to do it. They're very easy to switch in and out. If you don't switch them in and out correctly, there is a risk of losing the bungee. The good part about Ambutech is that if you do, you can send it back into them and they will retrieve the bungee for you if you can't. I'm also very good at retrieving bungees if this happens to anybody. Yeah. So yeah, metal, yeah, there's a couple things if you want to recover your bungee, you're going to need a metal coat hanger and a pair of pliers. So that's all I'm going to say about that. There is another option. Actually, I'll talk about this in a minute. So the next type of attachment mechanism for cane tips is a slip-on tip. These are available through Ambutech and Revolution. They are harder to switch out because you actually have to jam them on your cane in order to get them to stay on. Sometimes people even have to use the door jams to get them off. And now the other thing about cane tips is they are going to have to be replaced eventually. These tips are not going to last for your entire life. They're going to have to be replaced every couple to few years. So like eventually, if you have a revolution, you're going to have to get that tip off, right? And it can be really hard. I've had a lot of issues getting those tips off myself. Vice grip. Yeah, there is. I don't know who sells this, but there is like an actual tool that you put on. You like screw it onto a table or a counter, and you put the cane in it, and you screw it really tight on the cane, and then you pull it. So there is a thing out there, but the last type of attachment mechanism for cane tips is threaded tips. So these are mostly available on ID canes or slimline canes. This is where you actually twist the cane, kind of like a screw into so you twist it into the cane rather than hooking it on or shoving it on. For people who have dexterity issues, so sometimes hook-on tips can be a challenge for people with hand dexterity or finger dexterity issues. They do offer an adapter. It's a hook-on adapter, and you can actually hook it on. It stays permanently hooked into your cane, and then you can buy threaded tips, and you can actually switch them out that way. The one downside to threaded tips is that they don't sell them in as wide of a variety as they do the hook tips. So, but there is that option for anyone that has dexterity issues, that doesn't feel like they can switch out their tips on a hook tip. That's all I've got for that. Does anyone have questions in general? I'm gonna take a couple minutes for Q&A here. Anyone on the call have any questions? All good. As
Is
for
there,
switching tips, I just want to make this last sort of comment. Um, if you have an O&M or you can get an O&M, have them teach you how to do it before you try it on your own. Just a word of caution, because getting that bungee out can be difficult. Um, Matthew, did you have a question?
yeah, I was just gonna ask if is there like a link where I could look at all these online or, um,
Yeah, so I can I think I sent you an email. I can send you the email with all of the, so I'll send you the LS&S link with all of the tips, and then I'll send you the Revolution website and the Awarewolf website. I should have included like a resource thing in here. I'll make one afterwards and send it to all the participants. Does that sound good?
yep,
Cool. I will
thank,
do that. Yes,
Um,
Ambutech does, and I've heard really good things about their customer service. So, yeah. Any other questions from the crowd?
Yes, I have
Did
a
you have a question?
question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Um, would you rather us purchase canes and tips through Second Sense or go directly to LS&S?
It really depends. If you feel like you're confident in picking the right cane length and the right tip for yourself, you can by all means purchase that through LS&S. Especially for like I said, the more specialized tips, we typically don't carry those in stock, so we would be ordering them from LS&S anyways, so it really wouldn't make that much of a difference. But if you are confident in choosing the right length and the correct tip for yourself, by all means, you can purchase from LS&S.
Does it benefit Second Sense if we purchase through you? Is it more helpful?
It does not, just because we typically purchase from LS&S at it's like the same price.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't make too much of a difference, especially if it's any specialty products. We just kind of purchase it and then get reimbursed for it.
And what tips do you carry in Second Sense that we could come in and buy directly?
So we issue all of our Ambutech canes with a marshmallow roller. And then we carry um, roller balls in stock for sure. And then I do have a couple of ceramic tips in stock right now as well, and a couple pencil tips. Because surprisingly, I have a couple people that are very particular about their pencil tips. So, yeah. Yes, Wayne.
I've got a question. Some of the websites, including Ambutech, they can take.
Hmm.
It's not just the white. They have all these different color
Hmm.
and things like that. And, um, do you happen to know? I was old fashioned, but I was told you always needed to have a white cane with a red tip to identify to customers and people that you were using a white cane.
Hmm.
Is there a change in that, or does it matter if you have a gold cane, black cane?
Yeah. So, Wayne was just saying, so on Ambutech's website, and Sue, I will get to you in just a second. I do see your hand up. Um, on Ambutech's website, they do have a variety of colors. You can get a different handle color. You can get a different like tape color on the bottom of your cane. You can get a different tip color. They have all of these options on there. So the white and red historically means, so the white cane with the red bottom historically means that you are blind or visually impaired. If you have a striped red and white cane, that historically means that you are blind and hearing impaired. Not a lot of people know that. Again, a lot of people in the public also don't know that white and red mean that you're visually impaired. They just see the cane. One of the reasons that, some people need some incentive to use a cane, right? And sometimes that incentive can be they get to decorate it or order it however they want. right? So it makes the cane more usable to that person. Just typically younger people. I've seen it in a lot of younger people. Some people bedazzle their canes, right? So I think it's more for like personal preference. Honestly, I think a lot of members of the public aren't the ones that are recognizing the red and white as someone who's visually impaired anyways. It's just the cane in general. So that being said, it is more typical to have red and white. But the tape that they're putting on the canes, it's all going to be the same reflective tape. So either way you put it, it's not making it any more or less safe for you. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sue, do you have a question? I see your hand up. I don't know if you know how to unmute. And I cannot unmute because Kathy's the host. Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Sue.
I'm new to this. I was never aware of the ceramic tips before. Did you say that they do roll?
So they do not roll, but they are easier to glide across than a typical non-rolling marshmallow or a pencil tip,
Oh,
but they
okay.
do not roll.
Okay. Yes, I'm anxious to get one of those. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else have questions or comments?
This, which is the ceramic tip, I found if you just pull it out and put in a pencil or some kind of object to hold it, it's easy to change.
Yeah, you might have a stopper in there too. I'll look for you. You might have a stopper in there.
Oh, I do think.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, he was just talking about how to switch out your tips, which like I said, if you can get access to an O&M to learn how to do that, that is what I would recommend doing, because it can be tricky. Anyone else on the line have any questions? All good?
Mandy, this
Yeah,
is
hi, Kathy.
Kathy. I just wanted to mention, John had asked about if it benefits purchasing a cane from us versus LS&S. We are tax exempt and we do pass that tax exempt savings on to the client. So you do save a few bucks if you do buy it from us, if you know. So,
Oh,
and
thanks,
then we don't
Kathy.
charge shipping to send it out. So that's just thought I'd pass that along.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, John. Anyone else? For everyone on the line, I will send out an email with all of the like links and resources to you guys, probably by Friday at the latest. So be on the lookout for that. And then if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me or call me at the Second Sense number. All right.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good rest of your day, and
Thank
we're
you.
going to go start the demo. Bye, Mary.